Hello, online art teachers. My name is Marie Taylor. I'm from the state of Kansas, and I am a middle school art teacher. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 potential projects that you may want to include in your classroom next year. The first one is the Lyric project, and then the next is the Noun project, and the last is Feng Shui and some of the practices and ways to incorporate it into your classroom. So for the first project, the Noun project, I did do this project during continuous learning this year, and it was really interesting to see the pandemic and its effect on the students through the lens of their artwork. Here you can see that this student did put a mask on the world, and then this was a student that did like a zoom up of her face there. So these are some examples, and this is why I really value this project, because I feel that with the challenges for the Noun project, that you must include a person, a place, and a thing in your artwork. And a lot of the times you'll be surprised at all the diverse results from this project, depending on your students and their story and what they've experienced. A lot of the times I almost feel like the effects and what you'll find is like psychological in what's kind of in their mind and in their spirit at the time. Also, I just want to say that the art room always provides a place that is safe, that everyone can find their voice and feel comfortable and at ease. This right here, to me, is the artwork of the year for my classroom, especially with our strange experience with the pandemic. I was amazed by this student's detail. She used colored pencil for this work, and she even has many letters, and one question here says, "What has happened to our world?" Kind of a sad work, but I was impressed with how much detail she put in, and I think it really hits on the lens of a pandemic and the experience of a middle schooler during this time. Some of my other examples are from the Noun project in the year before, when we did it before with my advanced students. This was one example of a student and her heritage. She was a Japanese student, and she brought in this work, and she did it with a traditional kimono as well as the cherry blossoms and the sunset, and I thought that was really an interesting work. She asked me if the tree could count as her thing, and I said that was okay. Here are some other results from the Noun project. I thought the way the student handled the paint was very nice. Really, overall, what the Noun project provides is it provides the student with ownership. It gives the student a chance to tell their story, and it also allows them to feel comfortable and use their voice to talk about their work or talk through their work. I think this is especially important, especially with all that's happened this year, because we've all had a lot of trauma and difficult things to work through and experience, and there is probably a lot of stress and confusion over what's been happening right now. And I think that giving an open project like this one, where they have a chance to speak through their artwork that is more flexible, gives the student a lot of chance to process all that has happened. This is another Noun project. This student really loved Korean culture, and so she used a variety of reference images to produce this work. I noticed that when they take time to really research and gather many references, it enhances the quality and detail of their work. I was impressed with all the little signs. Here's some of them all laid out, and another Noun project. This was one of my favorites from last year. This student, maybe I shouldn't say favorites, but I thought it turned out well. This student, she worked from a picture of her mother when her mother was young, and I guess that her mother grew up in Fairview, and she said it's a country area and there's a lot of barbed wire, so she incorporated that. I just thought it had a lot of personal meaning. Now on to the Lyric project. Students love music. Anytime we have a studio session in my class or work, they can depend on there being music. And some of them laugh at me because a lot of my students have said, we like that you play old music, Miss Taylor. A lot of the times it's 60s, 70s, we got a vibe going in that classroom. So, but I always have music. But I also try to change it up. If there's a project that may hit on a certain culture or a location in the world, I will work to provide music from that region to connect with my lessons, and the students really enjoy this. For this project, the lyric project, I connected with the students because they were able to pick a song from an artist that they appreciated and isolate a lyric from the song. Then what they did with the lyric is they were supposed to put it into their artwork somehow, but instead of writing it, I told them, don't write it like a little chicken scratch. I want the lyric to become part of the imagery. So their imagery was what that isolated lyric made them think of, and then the lyric was included, and what I told them is I would like it to be in more of like a font lettering instead of just plain lettering. And so they were looking up different fonts as well. There was a really enthusiastic response to this project. Some of these examples are from kind of a winter time, sort of the season of Christmas. And so some people went with that theme, but by no means was that what you had to do. This was just the time of year and what some of my students produced. This picture here, she chose the song Feliz Navidad. And it was interesting because she kind of combined elements of her family's culture with Spanish-speaking lyrics, and then also with the St. Lucia Day, the practice in Sweden where they wear the wreath on their head with candles. And so she has both Spanish and Swedish combined in that work. I thought that was neat. Over here we've got Frosty the Snowman. This was one of those artworks that, the student loves art, and sometimes students don't always make masterpieces, but you can tell when a student is really beaming with pride. This student was so proud of this artwork that came out of the lyric project. Over the top it says "Into the Unknown," and then she has a little girl like walking into the forest, and I thought it really, I just liked to see how proud that student was. I think it was one of her favorite works that she produced in the year. Right here, I've got a picture of someone working on their project, their lyric project, and it's really messy. Usually my classroom is very messy. We have paint stuck to the tables, and it's crazy. And so if you have any cleaning practices, feel free to message those to me. I'm kidding, but yeah, I might need them. Up at the top it says, words like those won't steal your glow. So this was a student that did kind of a self-portrait, and then she had meaningful lyrics along the border. And then lastly, this one was pretty impressive. I like the combination of, she used pencil for her imagery and then black background and put the lyrics of her song in the scrolls up top. This brings us to the final project I want to mention. And really, I haven't completely done this project with my class yet, but next year I want to definitely incorporate it more. I've had a real interest, just personally, in feng shui and incorporating it into your home. And since it's such a fascination to me, and I've read so much about it lately, I want to connect it back to my classroom and my students' projects because I'm enthusiastic about it. And usually if I'm enthusiastic, they will meet me in my enthusiasm. If I'm not excited about the project, they probably won't be either. This was, we did do a project at one point where we looked at dragons of the world. And so that's some of the examples I have here. But the dragon, as well as the white tiger, are both symbolism in feng shui. So I think investigating some of those symbols could be a place to start for some inspiration from projects. This is a student artwork. She was a 6th grader. I about fell out of my chair. Look at that little paw. Oops. This one may not be super clear, but we did poster-sized dragons, and they really responded well to this project. We used sponges and dipped them in paint to give it give some of them like a scaly texture. They had a lot of fun with that. Also, with this one, not to go on about it, but like if they paint sloppy, I have them paint however they want, but then clean it up with black acrylic, like on the outside around it, and it makes the colors pop, and also it gives them a chance to clean up their messiness. And so those were poster size, and those were pretty fun in the hallway. During the at-home learning, I assigned them to look at some ancient Chinese work, and like many of you I saw in our group, we experimented with painting with coffee. I found that instant coffee seems to work the best, but the connection to feng shui with this was I talked to them about in feng shui how slow moving kind of water is calming and like often a piece to a positive feng shui. Really, feng shui, there are so many things that you could connect to projects, because it's all about balance and arrangement and energy and flow. And you know, we always want our students to look at how they've arranged and be more conscious of composition in their work. So there's just a lot of connections you could do to projects. Next year I want to think about something like maybe a feng shui garden landscape or something like that. But for the coffee landscape, they did incorporate a water source, and they looked at ancient Chinese fans and scrolls and panels. So here are some examples of student work. I liked how she incorporated the lettering up top. We found, like I said, that instant coffee with just a little bit of water seemed to be the best. This one, she tried the coffee and it wasn't showing up. I got about 10 emails about the coffee not working. It was funny. And so I told her to go ahead with pencil, but she did a great job with shading a traditional building. This one you may recognize. It was inspired by Hokusai's The Wave. I was super impressed with that. No pen lines, just coffee. And this is the last guy I leave you with. It reminds me of my bearded dragon pet. Look at that fire. I mean, billowing flames. That is middle school if I've ever seen it. I'm kidding. But anyway, so that's just what I wanted to leave you with, and I hope that this has given you some exciting ideas to incorporate into your classroom. Thanks for joining me.